Hello, well I've just stirred from a cheeky nap after watching the fights early hours of this morning, and I am buzzing. I'm now trying to get my head around what we witnessed. I think one thing is for sure, there is nothing quite like a McGregor fight, and that goes from the build-up to the fight to the post-fight and apparently the after party as well. So he's back, we've definitely learned that. And he's back in fine fettle as well. What a way to dispatch Cowboy, 40 seconds, so creatively as well. I don't think anyone predicted that, certainly not the selection of shots. It just goes to show what a special martial artist Conor McGregor is. And there's so many questions now. I just wanted to start with how the build-up to this was seen, because there were so many people like me, analysts and commentators and writers, journalists, etc., the media, all scrambling to get their opinions out on how this one would unfold and why Conor was saying and doing what he was and wasn't doing. It was quite fascinating, and I have to say I was one of those that was questioning his approach with this fight and how he was interacting with Cerrone. I'm not going to go back on what I was saying. You know, when you're so very, very good at something that gives you the edge, I just don't see why you wouldn't exercise that. But I think in my heart of hearts, I've learned once again, Conor is just a very real person. I don't think there's any conspiracy theories to unpick here. I don't think there was any reverse psychology, any, in inverted commas, beef that existed a few years ago wasn't at play. Conor had proven himself at 155. He'd proved that he could mix it at 170. So a lot of the arguments that Cerrone had gone. Whilst Conor had been away, Cerrone had put in all of this work and just built upon his legacy. So it was just respect. And why fabricate something that wasn't there and put your energies into that? I really don't think it was anything more than that. And it was a breath of fresh air for many people. I like it either way. I was a massive fan of GSP. I've been a big fan of Conor's as well. And I just can't get over just how big a spectacle it is each and every time. So I've been lucky to have seen Conor come up from the local scene back in 2009, 2010, when I was working with Cage Warriors. And before that, like Ash Daly, Cole Pendred, Chris Fields, Owen Roddy, when I was interacting with these guys and hearing these little stories of Conor on the way up and how that just developed. And I just think that he's needed this platform so that he could turn the volume up, and that's just it. It's just, this is the perfect platform for him, and he thrives each and every time. The way that he can just turn up and fight the way that he does is fascinating. What an interesting story he has. What a fascinating case study he will be for sports historians when they look back on his career in the future as well. And it's just something that came to mind a second ago was the difference between needs and wants. And Conor is in a position that he can just exercise what he wants. His needs are met now financially. He's achieved great success already. Obviously has new ambitions. What he wants is to be able to fulfill his passion, his combat sports dreams, and he has the profile and the platforms and the teams to be able to achieve these things. There are no more needs in satisfying bills and bullshit like that. It is purely now a career of desires and wants, and he's in a very privileged position. So you've all seen the fight. I'll let the expert analysts talk about that. But where does that leave us? What's next? Because it's good for some people in that division and bad for others. What does it mean for Gaethje? What does it mean for Dustin Poirier? Because the conversation seems to be surrounding a rematch with Khabib, which, let's be honest, if Dana White's buying into it, Conor being the big star that he is, and with that win as well, that's there for him. But then Tony Ferguson, if he indeed gets a win over Khabib, then he be the guy, right? So that sits there. But now this venture at 170 pounds does keep the doors open. And for those of you that saw the behind the scenes where I spoke with Dan ahead of the behind the scenes of Inside the Octagon, over on the Full Reptile page, you will see the conversations that Dan and I were having around this kind of subject. Again, I don't think it needs to be as nuanced as what Dan was thinking. I think it's fairly more straightforward, but one thing I do agree with Dan is the options, the door that has been left open, now kicked wide open at 170, means there's a whole lot more that Conor can consider in that division. And you've got the champion talking his name, and you've got the BMF champion, the BMF belt holder, I should say, Jorge Masvidal. Who do we think should be the next for Conor? Here are the options. Here's how I'm breaking it down in my mind. Right now, Jorge Masvidal, the number one contender for the welterweight title, is red hot. Usman is out injured, and he will be coming back shortly, so I don't know where that leaves him for a fight. Khabib and Tony Ferguson are fighting in the spring. Khabib will respect Ramadan. We won't see him until after the summer, if indeed he's victorious. Otherwise, that leaves Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson doesn't seem to be fighting very regularly at the moment. Nate Diaz is out there as well, but will Conor entertain a Diaz fight over a Masvidal fight? Particularly when you consider if McGregor gets in the octagon against Masvidal this spring, for example, or even the summer, then he could position himself as a number one contender for that belt. But if he leaves it, fights Nate, allows Masvidal to have a contest with Usman, then I don't know if there's a missed opportunity there. If Masvidal isn't successful in that bout, his stock goes down. Right now, Masvidal is one of the biggest stars. He is trending. He is red hot. I say that would be the fight to make, the fight that the fans would be most interested in. Give him the BMF belt, put that on the line, and then there's opening up a contendership for that 170 position as well. This is looking very exciting indeed for the rest of the year. It's good to see him back. I felt it. I felt how big it is. I felt the difference that he makes. We've got many stars in the UFC, but no one moves the needle like Conor McGregor. Look out for the How Did They Do That Breakfast Breakdown, which will have its proper debut this week, early this week. I get together with my coach, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, UFC veteran David Lee. We're going to take a look at one or two of the submissions that we saw last night, UFC 246. Pick apart how it happens. I get to learn, you get to learn. So check that out. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I should have something up on YouTube as well.